This video tutorial is going to focus on how to find the preamble of a final rule that's been published in the Federal Register. Now, the preamble of a final rule usually contains information pertaining to the background of the rulemaking process that's led up to the final rule. So that's going to include things like the statement of the requirements in the law, citations to the proposed rule, and really any other historic rulemaking leading up to the final rule. It may include a discussion or even an analysis of the comments that were received by the public after they published that proposed rule. And it may include justifications for why the agency made those final decisions. Now, not all preambles contain the same information, and then the depth and the breadth of the information really can vary from rule to rule and even by agency to agency. So let's look at an example. We want to find the preamble of a final rule that was issued by the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. And the final rule is discussing the importation of untreated citrus from Mexico. Now, we know from our research that the rule was published in the Federal Register in 2006. There are several ways you can search for this final rule. We can search for it by keyword. If we know a CFR citation, we could search by the citation of the CFR part. If we have the docket number, we can search by that docket number, or we could even add the agency name to our search to target specific results. And we're going to look at each of these scenarios and how we can search by these different things to find the preamble for the final rule. Now, there's two key points to note before we begin searching. First, preambles are published at the beginning of the final rule. And secondly, if you're searching for a final rule, you really want to specify that in your search in order to locate the beginning of the final rule in the text, because that's where that preamble appears. So let's look at an example here. I'm going to go to our advanced search option, and we're going to insert text, open quote, and then we're going to put in the action, final rule, close quote. Now, you're wondering, why are we searching for action, final rule as a phrase across the text? The reason is because at the beginning of every rule published in the Federal Register, the action is going to denote what type of rule it is. So it's either going to say final rule, proposed rule, correction. In the older Federal Registers, it might just say rule. So by inputting final rule into our search string, we're narrowing our search to full text pages that contain final rules. Now we're going to use our Boolean operator and search across the full text again, so text, open quote, and now we're going to insert our key terms. So our keywords are going to be importation, untreated, citrus, Mexico. Close the quote. And I'm going to use a proximity search of 15 to search for those 4 key terms within 15 of each other. We're going to narrow it to just the Federal Register in our title listing. Now we know it was published in 2006, so we're going to add that date range to our search and click search. And this is going to give us one result. Now, when clicking view matching text pages here, you have to read through the excerpts to locate the page where the text of the final rule relating to the importation of untreated citrus in Mexico is published. Now, so if we look at the first page here, 33147, you'll see here's our term action final rule, but it doesn't have our other key terms, the importation untreated citrus or Mexico. And actually, if you start to read this, you'll see this final rule implements Subtitle G of Title 8 of the Homeland Security Act. So that's not what we're looking for. So if we look to our next page, 33172, now here we find importation of fruits and vegetables, untreated citrus from Mexico. Here's our agency, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, our action final rule. So this looks more like what we're looking for. So if we turn to page 33172, as we scroll through the page here and we look in the bottom right corner, here you're going to find the text of a final rule and the beginning of the preamble. And here the preamble is going to include a summary of the requirements of the law, which is what you're seeing here. You also see the CFR citation up here, the docket number. So when we're searching across the full text, and we said we were searching for action : final rule, this is why we added that to our full text search string, because that's exactly how it's printed in the Federal Register, and so that really helps target our search results to these specific pages. Now if we scroll forward one page, you'll see the preamble continues, and here's your background information, and it actually references the CFR subpart here. It's also going to, in the preamble, address other rules or rulemaking, the rulemaking history rather. So here you're seeing on March 31st, 2005, they published the proposed rule in the Federal Register, and this is a direct link, so you could actually click on this and it'll link you right to the proposed rule. And as we scroll through a little bit further, we see that after the proposed rule, there were a number of comments, and they addressed the majority of the comments in another final rule that they published on December 8th. And so here you can link to see the discussion of those comments in that final rule. And then they published this subsequent final rule so they could address the issues with the importation of untreated citrus, specifically in Mexico. So again, this is the preamble information that you would be looking for. And if we continued scrolling through here and reading through our preamble, again, that's all background information here. Once we get to page 33177, you'll notice the bottom right-hand corner here is where you're going to find your amendatory instructions, as well as the new text for that specific part of the CFR that they're amending. So alternatively to conducting a keyword search, we could search by a CFR citation, a docket number, or even an agency name. So let's look at those scenarios. Now, one thing that I didn't mention in the beginning of this is for those of you that are frequent users of the Federal Register and Hein Online, you know that the most effective searching technique is searching across the full text. And the reason for that, if we look at our table of contents here, is the Federal Register is only indexed down to the specific day. So it's only indexed to the specific date, Thursday, June 8th, 2006, which is why when we click on our table of contents, we're not seeing very many details here. And that's why full text searching is really the best way to search across the Federal Register and Hein Online. Okay, so let's go back to our search. I'm going to click on our search tab and go to our advanced search screen again. Now let's say we have a CFR citation for this, and the CFR citation we have is 7 CFR 319.56. Now, at the beginning of a final rule, the CFR part is referenced using this format. It's going to have the title, and then it's going to say the title number, and then it's going to say CFR part, and then the part number. So actually, if I go back to this page here, you'll see right here, 7 CFR Part 319. So if we have a CFR citation, we can search the full text of the Federal Register using this format of the CFR reference. So let's look how we do that. So from our search screen, again, we're going to search across the full text, and we know we're searching for a final rule. So I'm always going to include action : final rule, close quote, and I'm going to search across the full text again, and I'm going to add that CFR citation. So I'm going to do open quote, 7 CFR Part 319. Highlight just the Federal Register, 2006 to 2006, search. Now this is going to give us a larger set of results. We've got 34 results here, and we can use our view matching text pages, And you're still going to find final rules that relate to that specific part of the CFR. But what you have to remember is that entire part 319 of 7 CFR, is going to reference more than just the importation of citrus and untreated citrus in Mexico. It's going to reference a lot of other fruits and vegetables and crops and things. So what we can do from here is use our search within these results option and add key terms. So we could add here untreated citrus in quotes and click search. That narrows our results to 2, and using view matching text pages we can link right to the page again, 33-172. Here's our CFR part, here's our final rule, and here's our key term untreated citrus. Now similarly, if we do, let's click new search here. If we have the docket number, you could search across the full text for the docket number. So text colon, open quote, action colon, final rule, close quote, and text colon. Now we're going to put in our docket number. And we know the docket number appears in the text as docket number 03-048-3. Highlight just the Federal Register 2006 to 2006 and click search. Gives us one result, and using view matching text pages, as we scroll through, we're going to only find this one page that contains the docket number and our final rule. So again, we can link right to the page. Now, the last scenario might be if you know the agency name. So we know it's a final rule, so we can do text colon, open quote, action colon, final rule. Now we're going to add the agency name to the search. And again, you got to search across the text, so it's text colon, open quote. Now the name of the agency here was Animal and Plant Health Inspection. So put that in quotations, just the Federal Register, 2006 to 2006, and click search. Now this is going to give us an even bigger set of results here, 210. So in this case, if that's what you have is you know it's a final rule, you've got the agency name, what you're going to want to do is search within those results for a key term. So again, if we used our key term untreated citrus, close quotes, and click search, it's going to narrow our results to 3. And using view matching text pages, again, we can kind of read through the pages and we can search for the agency name, the final rule, and our key term. So those are various ways that you can search for the preamble, for a preamble of a final rule that's been published in the Federal Register. Now again, those preambles are published at the beginning of the final rule, and it's going to include all the background information, citations to the proposed rule or other rulemakings leading up to that final rule.